I'm here tonight because we must never let that happen. Our task is to defeat socialism, to defeat Marxism, communism, to defeat the cartels and the criminals and the human traffickers trafficking women. And that means defeating Kamala Harris in a landslide. We want a landslide this November. We want something too big to rig, too big to rig. Too big to rig. Too big to rig. We cannot let this, I have to say once great country, but will soon be a great country again. But right now, we don't feel like this is a great country. We're a laughingstock all over the world, but we can't let our country fail. As everyone here understands, the radical left ideology Kamala supports is really militantly hostile toward Americans of faith. And you saw that during the pandemic where people couldn't get together. Even when they wanted to get together with big spaces outside, they were ravaged. As a senator, she viciously attacked highly qualified judicial nominees simply because they were members of the Knights of Columbus, suggesting that their Catholic faith disqualified them from serving on the federal bench. And I'll tell you something, I don't know, we have a lot of Catholics in here, probably not too many. How many Catholics do we have? Whoa, it's a lot. I don't know how a Catholic can vote for the Democrats because they're after the Catholics. Almost as much as they're after me. I would say I top you, I'm proud to admit. But they're really after the Catholics. And, you know, I met today with Bibi Netanyahu, and I will tell you, I asked him a question, and he said he's getting asked that question a lot. I said, how can a Jewish person or a person that loves Israel vote, think of this, vote for these parties? I mean, how can they vote Democrat? How can they vote for these horrible people that want to destroy? But I asked him, how do they vote for Democrats? Everything is negative. Everything, they want to stay in the way. They don't want to have victory. They want to stop you from having victory. They want to put you in jail. They want to persecute you. How does a Jewish person vote for a Democrat? And traditionally, they have. No, traditionally, they have. And we came to the conclusion it's mostly habit. Because they have for 50 years. I mean, they have. That's what they've done. But how does a Jewish person vote for a Democrat? How does a Catholic person vote for a Democrat? With what they're doing to Catholics, I just don't get it. Somebody doesn't like Catholics in that administration, and I don't even know who it is. I don't think it's Biden because I don't think he has any idea what the hell he's doing. I don't think he has any ideas on any subject. Kamala Harris supports California's outrageous new law trampling on parental rights and allowing minors to change their gender without parental notification or consent. Can you imagine? She's in favor of that, by the way. Or she was. She's probably losing. You know, they're losing as much as they can. But remember, a politician always goes back to where they started. Harris wants to forcibly compel doctors and nurses against their will to give chemical castration drugs to young children. You know that, right? She totally supports that. And she supports the Biden-Harris Title IX policy of forcing every public school in America to let men into women's and girls' locker rooms. Can you imagine? It's like, what are we doing? What? You know, the whole world is laughing at us. You do know that, right? We've gone wacko. As president, I will protect the safety and well-being of America's children. I will defend the values of the American family. And above all, I will restore common sense to Washington, D.C., because Republicans, and I said this for the last year, and I think it's so true, we're conservative and all of that stuff. But you know what? We're the party of common sense. Common sense. We want borders. We want security. We want safety. We want good education. We'd like low interest rates. We'd like to be able to buy a house. We want safety, though. We want safety. We want strength. We want wisdom. We don't want to have an electric car where everybody has an electric car that doesn't go far, is made in China, costs too much. And by the way, and I want to thank Elon Musk for endorsing me, by the way, I have to tell you. And I said, you know, Elon, remember, I love electric cars. I think your car is great. I love it. But it's not for everybody. And, you know, he never said to me, look, I'm going to endorse you, but, you know, you have to show. Because I think the electric car and I think the Tesla, I think it's incredible what they've done. But there are other reasons, like sometimes you want to drive long distances. You don't want to stop. You know, in the Midwest, someplace in the Midwest, they put up 8 charging stations. You know that, right? They spent $9 billion. Now, you know what a charging station is? It's like a gas pump. It's the equivalent of a gas pump for electricity, right? It's a little thing. They spend $9 billion. That would mean that if they did it throughout the country, all the locations designated, it would cost $5 trillion, so our country would have to file for bankruptcy. They would have to file bankruptcy protection to build charge. The whole thing is crazy. They want everything to be all electric. But Elon's great. He endorsed me. He said, look, you know, you got to say what you say. And I love the car. I think it's great. And some people love them, and some people want them. But I think if you're going to go long distances, it's a little bit, you're challenged. You're challenged. In my first term, I defended, and like nobody, Christians against hate and bigotry. Nobody did what I did, and Marxist aggression. No president has ever done what I've done for Christians before. I restored religious liberty for doctors, nurses, teachers, and faith groups like the beautiful Little Sisters of the Poor. We defended them very strongly. I stopped the IRS from using the Johnson Amendment. That's after Lyndon Johnson, who had a problem with a certain pastor in Houston, didn't like him, so he passed an amendment. It was a disaster. To interfere with pastors' freedom of speech, he wouldn't let pastors even discuss anything having to do with politics, and if they did do that, they'd take away their tax-exempt status. So pastors were afraid because they need the tax-exempt status in order to do what they have to do, and we want to listen to our pastors. We don't want them to be silenced because these pastors are incredible people. That's right. I listen to you. Sometimes I don't listen well enough, though, I will say. You know, Franklin Graham, you probably heard me say this. I said it a couple of times, but he's a great guy and always been a supporter of mine. He was never a supporter of people politically. Probably he can't be, but he was always a supporter, and openly. But he wrote me a letter a few weeks ago. He said, President Trump, I love listening to your stories. You're a great storyteller. That was very nice. He said, but please, if it's possible, it'll be even better. Don't use foul language. He told me, please, do away with foul language. If you don't use foul language, it will be even better. And I thought about it, and I tried it for a couple of nights, actually. Actually, it didn't work out so well. It was, you know, when I get to the punchline, I'm ready to use that one word, just one, Franklin, one word. And then I use a politically correct word, and the whole thing just falls flat. But I try. I'm trying, Franklin, I'm telling you. No, he's a good man. He's a good man. I issued guidance making clear that the right to freedom of worship does not end at the door of a public school. We know that. I was the first and only president to convene a meeting at the United Nations to end religious persecution worldwide. That's the first president to do it. They didn't want to get into it. All of these very religious presidents that you've had, you know, religious in quotes, they said, no, we'll pass on that. But I went and I did it, and I was proud to do it. For 4 years, I stood proudly with our friend and ally, the State of Israel. And for them and us, I withdrew from the Iran nuclear deal. We left Iran weak, broke, and unable to fund terror. And we would have had a deal if the election weren't rigged and stolen. We would have had a deal within the first week after the election. Instead, Iran is now a very wealthy country. They were a poor country. I said, nobody can buy from them. If you buy from them, you can't do business with the U.S. And China didn't buy, and nobody bought, and they didn't have the money to give to Hamas and Hezbollah. They had no money. They were broke. A Democrat congressman was on a show called Deface the Nation. Do you know? Ladies and gentlemen, it's Deface the Nation. You know, they spend millions of dollars with people to try and build up their name, and then Trump comes up, makes a speech. Look at all the television. Trump comes up, makes a speech, and you go deface the nation. So much for that PR campaign. But it's true. It is a defacing of the nation in many cases. The others are no different. ABC, NBC, CBS, they're all bad. But, you know, we have to bring back an honest press. If we don't bring back honesty in our press, this whole thing is not going to work. But I kept my promise, recognized Israel's eternal capital, and opened the American embassy in Jerusalem. It was a big deal. And got it built for $2 billion under budget. Took an old building and reconverted it for peanuts using Jerusalem stone. A friend of mine said, oh, I love Jerusalem stone. He's in New York. Big, rich guy. Every time I walk into his office, do you know what this is? I know it's Jerusalem stone. You tell me every time, oh, comes from Jerusalem. So now I'm building. I not only wanted to get it going, but I want to build it because I know I can get it built fast. And they had a building already. They were going to spend hundreds of millions of dollars to buy a site in Jerusalem. I said, wait a minute, don't we have something? We checked? Yeah, we always do, because we were there a long time ago. We were there sort of first, always by the post office like I did in Washington. If you get a post office, it's always the first building that they put in years ago. It's always the best location. So I said, do we have anything? Yeah. And I said, hey, listen to the people. We're going to spend $2 billion on building an embassy. I said, how much do you think we can do it for? We think we can do it for $350,000. So just, really, we're going to take an old building and reconvert it. I said, 300. It's the only time I ever said this. I said, you know, honestly, it's too low. It sounds too cheap. I've never done that before. Usually I say, okay, let's make it 300, right? Let's make it 250. But I said, I think it's too cheap. It sounds terrible. Do it for under 500,000. Yes, sir. I said, any chance we can use Jerusalem stone? A friend of mine says it's very expensive. He goes, absolutely, sir. It's all over the place. We're in Jerusalem. So we built the whole thing out of Jerusalem stone. Can you believe it? And got it done for nothing. And it's beautiful. It's a beautiful embassy. And that was the capital of Israel. Every president for decades and decades promised that they were going to do that. Capital of Israel, Jerusalem. But I even got the building built. And we got it built. We had a beautiful opening. I went. It was a beautiful opening. And I had a young lady named Ivanka there. We had our great first lady there. We had a lot of my children, a lot of my friends. It was a beautiful opening. Remember, it was always going to be a disaster if you do that. And every president was going to do it. They got to the office. They go into the White House. All of a sudden, they get hit by every side. They never did it. They never could get it off. I understand it. There was tremendous pressure not to do it. But I got it done. I got the building built, and it was a great thing. We opened it, and there were no problems, you know. People said there were going to be big problems. There would be bloodshed all over the Middle East. It never happened. It never happened. And we had it recognized, Jerusalem, as the capital of Israel. It was a great thing. It was a great day, actually. I also recognized Israeli sovereignty over the Golan Heights. I never even said I was going to do it. I mean, the fact is, I've done more for Israel by far than any other president, not even close. And with the historic Abraham Accords, as you know, we created peace in the Middle East. Unfortunately, they didn't add any countries to it, but we will. By contrast, Kamala Harris stabbed Israel in the back in its great hour of need. 2 days ago, she refused to attend the speech in Congress of the Prime Minister of Israel. She said, oh, I can't make it. There was just a small group of people, but they couldn't make it because that's her original thought. That's where she comes from. She doesn't like Jewish people. She doesn't like Israel. That's the way it is. And that's the way it's always going to be. She's not going to change. Together with Joe Biden, she gave billions and billions of dollars to Iran and Hamas to fund their campaigns of terror. She gave them billions of dollars. They were broke. Remember, when I left, they were broke. There were stories that Hamas is out of business, Hezbollah is out of business. They were broke. October 7th would have never happened if I were president. The attack on Ukraine by Russia would have never happened. I spoke to President Putin often about it. It was the apple of his eye. He would have never done it. Wouldn't have done it. I said, you'll never do it. He would have never done it. It was only after I left that armies started aligning the border with Ukraine, armies. And I said, oh, he's just negotiating. He'll never do it, but he did it. He did it because we had a weak president. He did it also because our move out of Afghanistan was so incompetently done. And I think when he saw the way we did that, he said, wow, this is a paper tiger that we're dealing with. But they weren't a paper tiger with me. We defeated ISIS in 4 weeks instead of 5 years. It was supposed to take 5 years, 4 weeks. Within days of the heinous October 7th attack on Israel, Kamala Harris praised the anti-Israel protesters. You saw that, right? She praised them. She betrayed America's ally and sided with the radical fringe of her party, only for political gain, maybe for personal gain, I don't know. And this week, many of those Kamala Harris supporters burned American flags in the heart of our nation's capital and desecrated our monuments. Did you see? They sprayed very powerful spray paint into limestone. Magnificent, the lions, the bells, you saw it. And you know, when that gets into limestone, you never really get it out. You'll see it in 100 years from now. They desecrated. And by the way, January 6th, well, what's happening to these people that have done serious damage? Have they been arrested? Are they in jail now, like the January 6 hostages? And when are they letting them out? You know, we had a great Supreme Court ruling 4 weeks ago that really should let most of them out. When are they coming out? They're still there. When are they coming out? Unlike liberal Kamala, I will support Israel's right to win its war on terror. You have to support that. Got to win, got to finish it off. And instead of pandering to the jihad sympathizers and America-hating radicals, we will deport them. We will deport them very quickly. We have no choice. And they understand that. They understand that. I have many friends in the Middle East, many great friends in the Middle East. They understand it. In my next term, I will once again appoint rock-solid conservative judges who will protect religious liberty and not let Marxist lunatics rewrite our Constitution. In my first 4 years, we will totally transform the federal bench, appointing remember this, I appointed nearly 300 judges to defend the law and the Constitution as written. I defended this law, this Constitution. Then they say, oh, he is not for democracy. I took a bullet for democracy. He didn't. And I might have taken it because of their rhetoric. I might have taken it because of their rhetoric. Who knows? I withstood vicious attacks to pick and confirm 3 great Supreme Court justices, Neil Gorsuch, Brett Kavanaugh, and Amy Coney Barrett. They're great people. They're courageous people. We've also achieved what the pro-life movement fought to get. For 50 years, they've wanted to get this. For 50 years, they've been working so hard, getting abortion out of the federal government. They wanted it out. That means everybody, Democrats, liberals, Republicans, conservatives, they wanted it out, and they wanted to bring it back to the states for 51 years, to be exact. And that's the way everybody, all legal scholars, virtually everybody, they wanted it out of the federal government, brought back to the states. And now it's up to the will of the people in each state. It's up to the voters. They're doing it. And some states will be more conservative in what they vote for, and other states will be more liberal. I mean, Ohio, we love Ohio, but they voted quite a liberal law. Kansas, same thing, very liberal. Then you'll have a Texas and you'll have other places, but it's now being voted on all over. The people will decide and that's the way they always wanted it. If Kamala Harris has her way, they will have a federal law for abortion to rip the baby out of the womb in the 8th, 9th month, and even after birth, execute the baby after birth. The baby is born. Remember the former governor of Virginia? He said, the baby is born. We sit with the mother and we discuss what you want to do with the baby. In other words, if you want, we'll execute the baby after birth. And they have laws, and they want to pass laws to that effect. These people are radicalized, and they're sick. They're sick people. So they're really, if you look at it, they're really the radical ones. And like Ronald Reagan, I strongly believe in exceptions for life of the mother, rape, and incest. I think it's very important. Don't forget, you have to go with your heart. But you also have to win elections. Very important. You have to win. So go with your heart. Do what you want, but you do have to win elections. We have elections that are very important to win. And if you don't do certain things, you're not going to win elections, and it'll be a very Pyrrhic victory. It'll be a victory that's not really a victory at all. But Ronald Reagan felt that. I felt that. Many people feel that. And we really did something that nobody thought was possible. I want to thank the 6 Supreme Court justices, Clarence Thomas, Samuel Alito, John Roberts, Brett Kavanaugh, Neil Gorsuch, and Amy Coney Barrett for the wisdom and the courage they showed on this long-term and very, very contentious issue. And getting it back to the states puts the question where it belongs with the vote of the people, and it's happening all over the country. You're having the vote of the people. And over time, it will all work out. It's working out at a rapid rate already. You know that. It's going to many, many states are voting on it now, and many have already voted. And sometimes, again, sometimes the vote will be as you like it. Sometimes it won't be quite as you like it. But our country can finally come together. This issue has been killing our country for 51 years. As soon as I take the oath of office, I will stop the Biden-Harris administration's weaponization of law enforcement against Americans of faith and against, frankly, their political opponent. No longer will their DOJ and FBI be allowed to target, persecute, or round up Christians or pro-life activists and throw them in jail for living out their religious beliefs. And that's what they've been doing. They've been doing that at levels that this country has never seen before. Americans of faith are not a threat to our country. Americans of faith are the soul of our country. All of you. You're the soul of our country. You built this country. You built this country. You really did. You built this country. From the moment I win the election, I will rapidly review the cases of every political prisoner who has been unjustly victimized by the Biden-Harris regime, so we can get them out of prison and back to their families where they belong. There's many of them out there. And that includes Paula Harlow, the 75-year-old woman in poor health who the Biden-Harris administration sent to prison for peacefully protesting outside of a clinic. You know that. You heard about that. This wonderful woman, and 75 years old. She's going to jail, and she's in jail. She's going to jail. She's going to be there for quite a while because she was singing religious tunes outside of a clinic. I will create a new federal task force on fighting anti-Christian bias.
That are affecting American, of course, the economy. Such a big deal this year. People just feel like they can't get ahead. The TikTok videos going viral. People don't understand what's happening to them. So the average American voter who's coming to this for the first time, seeking answers, we say Bitcoin fixes this. What does this mean? I don't know.
I didn't realize you were going to call me. I just want to say that after we free Ross, I would really like to see in the American government and across the American political spectrum the priority be placed that America becomes a place where code is protected speech. I believe the Constitution already protects it. I believe that we have developers right now that are sitting in jail One notably being samurai developers that should be freed immediately, and that protections should be in place going forward so that the developers of open source software, non-custodial software that does not touch money, are not treated as money transfer businesses, and that are properly treated as protected speech writers.
Do you want to take you into this conversation of course central banking, monetary policy concerns around the world? Maybe take the viewers at home into your thought process.
Right, everyone feels it. We all see when we go to the grocery store, we all see when we're trying to fill up our tank accounts. We spent some time yesterday talking about this. You'd be hard pressed to find someone who has not felt the effects of our terrible monetary decisions here in America and beyond as well. It's important to also recognize the fact that while the world relies on the dollar and we have felt inflation, the rest of the world has consistently seen higher and higher inflation than what we have stateside. So if you think it's bad here, it only gets worse and worse the further out you go. I'm going to continue to hammer this point home, but the fact of the matter is we have such a financial privilege to be in America, in the country that has the global reserve currency. Most of the world, the majority of the world is unbanked, and Bitcoin is an opportunity for them to have access to money and store their wealth in a way that they just don't have.
Right now, we're bringing up another special guest, and we are still awaiting history. It's coming, folks. Donald J. Trump in the building of the Bitcoin conference in Music City Center here in Nashville, Tennessee. Stay with us. We'll be right back on X, YouTube, and Rumble. Stay tuned.
The Bitcoin Conference. We started with a dream to build a community focused on Bitcoin. It all started in 2019 in the heart of San Francisco, the first major Bitcoin conference in years that kickstarted a revolution. And then Miami, a place where enthusiasts, developers, streamers, and innovators come together to make Bitcoin better. It has been an amazing 5 years and 8 conferences, thanks to all of you. Bitcoin Conference has become the largest premier global Bitcoin gathering in the world, leading the hyper-Bitcoinization. While Miami was incredible, it was time to set the stage for Bitcoin in a new city. So we took the conference off trip. Nashville, Tennessee was the obvious choice, a city known for music and freedom. Next year, the conference is being thrown again. We are headed to a new city next year. With hyper-Bitcoinization right around the corner, we have no plans to take the foot off the gas. Find out where we are headed next. Scan the QR code and be at the main stage for the big announcement.
This is Mara, taking Bitcoin mining to the cutting edge of energy solutions. We're monetizing excess hydro energy in Paraguay, turning waste into value by reducing landfill emissions and recycling data center heat to warm communities in Finland. With Mara, we're building the base layer of a sustainable future. To learn more, visit mara.com.
Anyone can be a part of the Bitcoin company. It's like a good church because it's an ethical ideology. There are many people that feel very spiritual about it.
I think that Bitcoin has those characteristics to be not just the most Islamic form of money, but the most Jewish and the most Christian form of money as well.
Bitcoin is just another step in the technological development of how we serve God better.
It is trying to remove politics from money. Bitcoin can make the world a better place.
Welcome back to the Mara News Desk, powered by Bitcoin Magazine. Once again, our own speakers are under Bitcoin Magazine. The main event of the Bitcoin 2024 history is coming, folks. Donald J. Trump in the building. You've seen the pictures of the motorcade, the videos, people lined up around the block. History is happening. For those like delay, we've got a special guest here to tell us a little bit about some Bitcoin basics. We know there's hundreds of thousands of people watching at home, many maybe learning about Bitcoin for the first time. Aaron, I've been wondering, can you editor of Bitcoin magazine here to explain Bitcoin versus crypto? So it works.
Yes. So we have a Bitcoin conference, we have a Bitcoin magazine. So why do we focus on Bitcoin? Well, what is the difference between Bitcoin and crypto? Well, Satoshi Nakamoto first launched Bitcoin. It was truly the first of its kind. But it was also open source. So anyone could check the code, but also copy it and make edits. So this started happening early on. People started to copy Bitcoin and make tweaks to it. At first these tweaks were very interesting. They had a different number of coins or a different hashing algorithm to create these coins, but they were very similar. Later on, some more ambitious projects came up that entered new futures, that had new futures that Bitcoin did not have. So that raised the question, what is the real innovation here? Is the innovation Bitcoin, or is the innovation cryptocurrency more general? So these alternatives companies are called altcoins, and Bitcoin and altcoins both as cryptocurrency. Is it about Bitcoin, or is it about cryptocurrency? Well, some people will say, the more the merrier, that free market.
Ladies and gentlemen, sorry to keep you waiting. Complicated business, complicated business. Join me in welcoming Donald J. Trump, 45th President of the United States, and soon to be the 47th President of the United States.
From the names